Youth and Indigenous people are at the forefront of the global climate movement. Their demand to cut emissions and address human rights and social inequality is consistent with climate action, a United Nations Sustainable Development Goal that calls for the urgent need to combat climate change to protect lives and livelihoods. In Belize, youth and Indigenous people are finding ways to respond to the climate crisis. The first ever Belize Climate Change Week in October provided a platform for Belizean climate activists to share knowledge and engage with policymakers.
Essentially, what we wanted to do was to engage with key sectors of stakeholders. So Indigenous people, young negotiators, and then high-level stakeholders. What we wanted to do was to first engage in terms of what is climate change, the impacts of climate change, the sort of context, and then have some engagement that will allow them to represent their views in terms of the impacts of climate change in their respective communities, some of the positions they think that we should take as it relates to climate change.
During the youth session, a mock conference of parties, COP, was organized where youth and youth negotiators experienced the COP negotiation process for the first time.
I was very much excited about it, to be honest, due to the fact that I was gonna engage myself not only with national developers, but with young people within my age range and below, in order for us to come together and formulate our thoughts and ideas.
My experience in that mock-up was very good. It had enhanced my knowledge or my awareness of the processes and procedures that COP takes.
The experience of being the COP president was for me a surprise, mainly a surprise, because I was not sure of the role, what it pertained or what all I had to do. But volunteering myself was the best option in that case because I got to promote my culture, I got to promote my district Corozal, and also to represent the Mayas as a whole.
Our Belizean youth are leading climate action in their communities by partnering with environmental organizations and clubs and spearheading outreach and community service programs.
Caribbean Youth Environment Network is very much a regional organization. We focus mainly on young people, giving them a space to create themselves professionally, of course in the environmental field. However, we also focus our advocacy towards climate change and sustainable development. The most recent training session was the training session where we had youth involvement. We had a youth arm whereby we had the first training in Belize City where we talked about climate justice.
From river cleanups to tree plantings, recycling, and cultural heritage preservation, these young people are leading by example in their communities.
So we actually started back in February 2020 when the coronavirus just came about. Activities we've done was like sign painting, food drive, garbage cleanup, water cleanup. I think it's important for us, like for myself as a youth, because then I believe one day later on in the future we won't have these resources for our kids, our future generation, and I would like to preserve them so they can see the beauty of nature and what I did enjoy as a youth.
After graduating from college, I wanted to do something to give back to my community, and that's when I heard that Tide, they were doing a lot of things to help with the environment, and I really love what they were doing, so I wanted to be a part of that. We actually created for the first time an environmental club right here in PG under Tide.
These are just a few of the things that our club has been recycling.
We've been doing a lot of recycling, recycling of materials that we find during cleanup, the bottles, the bottle cups. We also use materials found from our home, the boxes, toilet paper rolls, and the used tires that we find in our yard.
Personally, myself, I get involved in organization and climate change since I was 10 years, starting with Audubon Society as a reef protector, going ahead with MCAP, and now as in the Mayas, being a member of the Maya Association. I think it's a very important issue that we should take care of the environment because we as humans live in our planet, and if we don't protect our planet, we are not protecting our lives. Here in Belize, we see like the last hurricane with Lisa we had, it impacted Belize in like, it was just a category 1, but it impacted hard. So we can see that it's a category 1, but climate change lead to more stronger hurricanes that can even destroy our country. So it is important to protect our climate so it protect ourselves too.
Worldwide, Indigenous peoples are especially vulnerable to the effects of climate change because they rely on the land's natural resources. Locally, Indigenous populations have been instrumental in driving local climate action. The Northern Mayan Association of Belize is doing just that through collaborations with national, regional, and international organizations that help them carry out projects on the ground.
Apart from working towards preserving different aspects of the Yucatec Maya culture, the Northern Mayan Association has been engaged in various activities surrounding climate action and climate change at the different levels of communities, such as the villages, the towns. We also do national, and as well we engage with international platforms. Most recently, the Northern Mayan Association has received funding from the Global Environmental Facility, the GEF, through BENIC, which is the Belize National Indigenous Council, which we are a part of, to basically build the capacity of our membership in terms of stakeholders of the Northern Mayan Association, to let them understand what is climate change, how it affects us, and what we can do as communities to help mitigate the effects of climate change. Even though it had the concept of climate change, it also focused on food security, food sovereignty, and the uses of plant resources.
Felicita Cantun, a member of the Northern Maya Association, puts that mission of sustainable forest use into practice through the cultivation and conservation of her farm, Jardín Pachamama, located between Yo Creek and San Lazaro in Orange Walk.
From long ago, I just love nature. When I step in here, I always say the sky above, the earth below, peace within, because that is what you feel when you are here. Well, we have been working in this place for a very long time, and as a family. And well, they know that this, if you want one leaf, you need to ask permission. If you want to cut a branch, you need to ask me permission. Mother Nature is everything for us. From these plants, we get the air we breathe. We get the food we eat. We get our medicine. We get everything we get from Mother Earth. So, to me, it is very important to keep this place. So we need to keep, to work along with Mother Nature, because most of the times people say, La Madre Tierra, but what are we doing? How are we treating our mother?
The Toledo Alcalde Association also has a system in place to honor Mother Earth and promote sustainable forest management.
Within my communities, we are trying to avoid this effect of climate change by some areas that already been start to be affected. We are planting trees in the communities, and also the association itself for the alcaldes, we have a forestry customary use permit that we issued to the community leaders, so that whenever we go into the forest, we just don't go and just fall bush or cut timbers, but we have a process that you have to follow. You will be managing your forestry, and this will allow our forests and allow the climate change not to affect the indigenous Maya communities.
Women's groups in San Antonio Village in the Cayo district are leading their community's fight against climate change while also working to preserve their culture and secure financial stability for the women in the village.
I highly respect the women now because I know they are hardworking people, and I see the effort that they have implemented in the village. I see they have progressed.
In this group here, we're dedicated to empower women through preserving culture. For example, the embroidery that we're doing, these are things that can be sold, and this is what the women would make and bring it to our gift shop where we would sell it, and then that goes directly to the families that are involved in the project. We work with 3 main projects, which is the kitchen presentation where we teach people about corn grinding, tortilla making. We sell traditional food as well. And apart from that, then we do a presentation which is pottery making, where we're trying to restore and revive the traditional way of making pottery.
Hopkins and Dangriga, 2 coastal Garifuna communities that have been significantly impacted by climate change, continue to build their resilience through collaboration with the Enabling Gender-Responsive Disaster Recovery, Climate and Environmental Resilience in the Caribbean EnGenDER project under the National Climate Change Office.
Climate change has affected the Garifuna people tremendously. As you all are aware, we are generally a coastal people. So one example that people can see immediately is the sargassum that comes like on an annual basis. Generally around, like, if I remember clearly, like March to maybe like June, July is the heavy flow of this sargassum. So that has affected us. And what has happened is that our shoreline is quickly disappearing. So to all my Garifuna people here in Hopkins and in all the different communities that we have, it is important for us to stand firm and look after our communities. So we need to get together. We have individuals within the community. We have resources within our communities that we can use to, 1, understand what it is that we are fighting for. 2, how we can apply these different concepts about mitigation of climate change, because that is important. Whether we want to believe in climate change or not, it is here, so we have to deal with it.
As Belize advances its climate change action, from policy development to project implementation, stakeholder engagement will be a critical part of the decision-making process. The EnGenDER project gives those underserved groups a seat at the table.
Under the broader Climate Change Convention, it's important to take into consideration both local and indigenous communities, and this is take into consideration also the youths. It is important to have the youths and also local communities sensitized, because this was a major gap per se under our broader objectives. With that sensitization, it helps to mainstream implementation. So under EnGenDER and also on the Climate Promise too, that is what we hope to achieve, to have more meaningful input in policy formulation for decision makers. So we want to take that whole of society approach.